something. Lightweight, step at a side when we coming. Feel it in your chest, the syllables get pumping. People on the street get panic and start running. Words on loose leaf sheet, complete coming. I jump on my mind, I summon the rhyme I'm dumping. Healing the blind, I promise to let the sun in. Sick of the dark ways, we march to the drumming. Jump when they tell us that they wanna see jumping. Dad, I wanna see some fist pumping. Lift something, take back what's yours. Say something that you know they might attack you for. Cause I'm sick of being treated like I had before. Like a stupid standing for what I'm standing for. Like this war's really just a different brand of war. Like it doesn't care.
All right, welcome to Wide Awake Radio. I'm your host, Charlie McGrath. It's going to be a very interesting night. We're going to have Gabe Elton on from Austin Coin, Austin Rare Coin, sponsor of this program, and also a very useful source. So we're going to take advantage of his knowledge tonight, coming up here in a few minutes. If you're listening and you would like to pose questions for Gabe or myself, probably more likely Gabe tonight since he is our expert, go to wideawakenews.com, click on Wide Awake Radio link, and it'll take you to the chat room, and you can join a bunch of other good folks in there. I will open up phone lines after the one and only break at the bottom of the hour, so we can you can ask questions to Gabe on air as well. It is the 8th day of February 2011, but it sure as heck feels like the year should be 2007 because it's deja vu all over again. And this is the name of a video I'm uploading right now. Implosion again, deja vu, because I'm pulling these headlines directly off of my website here. 59.9% of Americans are racking up huge credit card balances once again. The next headline, Fed succeeds in fostering massive speculation in junk bonds and equities. And just two headlines down, inflation makes its ugly comeback in Argentina. Now, these weren't put up here on purpose. These were just, financial stories that were of interest and made it to the website. But I'm sitting here last night getting ready to send these stories off to Bonnie to post, and I'm like, we're here again. This is what, Warren and I spoke last night, an outstanding show, and, again, thanks, Warren, for your outstanding performance last night. It was second to none. But, we talked about the forward-looking of our government and how if they took a stance that was forward-looking, we're going to have these bailouts, but we're going to look forward to fix the problem, and maybe then in some universe it would have been worth to spend these trillions and trillions of dollars to bail out these companies and get the country back on the right track fiscally and monetarily. But that is not what's happened at all. We've done the exact same things. These headlines are not from 2007. They're from 2011. We're right exactly where we were when the collapse of 2008 occurred. Equities are starting to climb again. Commodities are going through the roof. The Dow Jones is at 12,000 and change. Excuse me. Oil is going to crack $100 here fairly soon. We have Argentina having issues. Not only Argentina, but around the world we see problems. This is all very, very reminiscent of 2007, 2008. And this go around is going to be completely different. This isn't going to look like your 2008 collapse whatsoever. Why do I say that? Because they don't need it. They, being the powers that be, being Wall Street, being the people who control our representatives, they don't need another bailout. They're entrenched into this corporatocracy. They are the government. They no longer need to go hat in hand before Congress and have their spokesman go before Congress and say, give us this $700 billion or else. They don't need this. This is done, finished. The line has been signed, the powers have been given, and the corporatocracy rules this nation. So when the collapse happens this time, the implosion of this dollar, they print it into oblivion. It's not going to be, hey, we're going to hand out trinkets for the next 2 years, $8,000 tax credits, cash for clunkers, extended unemployment benefits. We're not going to do any of this stuff to pacify the masses anymore. We're just going to put the heavy hand of the government in place, and we're going to let austerity reign in this country. So if you're not preparing for the inevitable collapse, the inevitable realization that what's happened over the last 2 years has been bailing out the too big to fail and entrenching them into a never-ending series of putting their failure onto your back. If you're not mentally and physically prepared for this, this one is not going to be a cakewalk walk in the park. This one is not going to be line up and get your benefits. This one is going to be look around the world. Look at Tunisia. Look at Egypt. Look what's happening in Iraq today. These people are not rioting because they're losing government services. They're not rioting because the austerity implemented means that they're going to lose 500,000 government jobs. They're rioting because they can't make enough money in order to put food on their table. And when they do make money, this week they're spending 50% of it to eat. Next week they're going to be spending 60% of it to eat. And what is our answer? We're going to print and print and print and print. And this is the answer to all of our problems? Are you kidding me? We will end up like Tunisia. We will end up like Egypt. There is no way out of it. 2 Austin reports ago, Gabe did an excellent job of pointing out, the commodity prices doubling inside of a year. Well, since then, $600 billion up front has been committed, and who knows how many behind closed doors, how many billions and trillions of dollars has been spent. But the handwriting is on the wall. They will not let equities fall. They will not let commodities fall. It is the bubble they're trying to inflate. When this one bursts, you better be sure of the ground you stand on. They're not going to be able to give you any kind of a bailout that's going to fix the economy next go around. It's going to be a massacre. All right, with that being said, let me bring on our guest. Gabe Elton, are you there?
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me, Charlie.
It's always a pleasure. Austin Rare Coin and author of the Austin Report. Thank you very much. Sorry I'm stumbling here a little bit. I had a knock on the door as I was broadcasting.
Well, that was a real pro way to handle it because I didn't even notice.
Well, that's good.
I will say I wanted to echo your thoughts there. You said that the Fed was printing into oblivion. The Federal Reserve is printing $100 billion each month. That's more than all the silver that's ever been mined in the world, and we're printing it each month.
I never even thought of that in that respect.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and that's that's what's causing some of the things that we're seeing. I'm looking at your chat room here, and someone by the handle of Caldos just put in silver is entering severe backwardation, and that occurs when you have the futures prices trading for less than the spot prices. Silver for immediate delivery is worth more than silver delivered in the future. And, that points to some severe problems, very bullish for the price of silver, but it shows some severe problems in the marketplace where you might have some big players betting that, there might be a default sometime in the future.
Well, let's get into a few things. First, I want to go to your latest Austin report, and if you haven't read it, you can go to wideawakenews.com under commentary, and you can't miss it. It's got a big red D's illustration there of our favorite Federal Reserve Chairman in red, all sinister looking. So go read the report, and I'll post it in the chat room as well. But let's get into that because there's several things that I wanted to cover with you tonight. First of all is the decline we saw in precious metals last month, a little bit of a pullback. And you pointed out in your report it was about 10% in January, which I spoke to you during this time. You were glad to see this. You wanted to see things cool off, consolidate, build up some base, because what you thought was going to happen after that is exactly what happened. It has been happening the last week or so. And I spoke to you a few minutes before the show tonight, and what a night to come on when we've seen the high in silver. I believe in the last month we haven't been where we are right now. So, the first thing I wrote down after reading your report was you alluding to Mark Twain, and where he says the rumors of his demise are greatly exaggerated. So all the bears all the anti-gold and silver crowd was out there last month. And so what were you hearing? You're there selling this stuff every day. Were a lot of people gloating? Oh, this is it for gold and silver.
No, it's really funny because I would say that people selling last month during that huge fall was probably maybe 3% of our business. 97% of the people out there were buying. and it just didn't make sense. You just don't see that happening in the physical market. In fact, supplies are getting harder to find. There are shortages across the industry, and during that time, you have the price falling. The two don't add up. I mean, the United States Mint in January produced more coins in 1 month than it ever has in its entire 26-year history. I believe that it was more than 9 months of last year combined, which was a record year in itself. But yet the price of silver is falling, and all of this points to just a paper market that is just going crazy, but it doesn't relate to what's happening in the physical markets, and I look at it as a great opportunity. There are more reports out there that this is all tied together. It's, I believe, interesting to me, and I didn't put this in my report. I try to stay away from controversial subjects, but it's interesting to me that the Commodities Futures Trading Commission had a meeting at the very 1st of January, right before this fall started, and they were talking about position limits. Of course, I'm sure your audience has heard that there's a rumor that J.P. Morgan controls at sometimes 80% of all the silver in the world, but it's all on paper. They were having a hearing on this, and everyone thought that there would be position limits incorporated so that that wouldn't happen. And, of course, what did our regulators do that are owned by the banks? They went out and grandfathered in J.P. Morgan and HSBC. And as soon as that became public, gold and silver started to fall. And they continued for some time. But I have information that leads me to believe that there are some very influential people that have lots of money behind them that are going to call the Federal Reserve's bluff, that are going to call J.P. Morgan's bluff, and there could be some interesting things happening this year. Austin Rare Coins as a company is willing to go on the record and say there's a high probability that COMEX will default sometime this year. And we've actually heard that it could be sooner than that.
That is huge news, Gabe. And let me tell you, I'm coming from the perspective of over the last 3 years, I've heard a lot of people saying, we could see a COMEX default, but the pieces weren't really in place, I believe, for that to happen. Meaning, with J.P. Morgan's situation where they do control 80% of the gold or the silver, and recently answering accusations of manipulation in that market. Not only that, you haven't had the geopolitical unrest that we've seen around the world. You hadn't had the massive printing of money that we've experienced in the last year or so. So I do believe that this is the time where the mainstream is catching up with our tinfoil hat wearing community that we belong to. Sorry, Gabe, tonight you're putting on your tinfoil hat, your silver
exactly.
foil hat.
Sure.
But I agree. I mean, I could see that happening if it was if you're talking some major investors, if they called the COMEX on their bluff, and said, hey, we want to take delivery, what would that look like?
It's funny because now that you say mainstream media has been picking up on it, Seeking Alpha is a pretty big blog out there. I would say they're a lot more mainstream than a blog like Zero Hedge, for instance, which I love to death. But Seeking Alpha had a report in there. Unfortunately, I can't recall the reporter's name, but he surmised that in fact it would be a quasi default because the Federal Reserve would never let the COMEX default. Of course, they would have to bail out the COMEX. And so it would be interesting on how that would exactly work out, but it would be a situation where you could see silver go up $10, $15 overnight. And, normally you won't hear these kind of statements from a company like ours, but we're lucky enough to know some very influential people who haven't come out right. They haven't come out right and to say it, but they've hinted enough to where we have a pretty good idea that that's what seems to be brewing. And I don't like putting a time frame on anything, but the time frames that we're hearing are much shorter than the end of this year.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question is can you divulge any kind of a hint of the time frame? And I know how you feel. I mean, when you make a prediction, man, you put it all out there, and if you put a timeline on it,
of course.
And
just to be clear, we're not saying this is absolutely going to happen. We would just believe that there is a very good chance of it happening. And just to give a hint, options for contracts on the COMEX expire in March.
Well, that's the good hint. I'm going to let that resonate for a second. So that's not very far away.
And again, just so you'll know, we want to make it very clear. No one's actually come out and actually said this to us, but from the hints that we're seeing, it just makes sense. I mean, you don't. I was born at night, but not last night. If I have a hedge fund that with billions of dollars behind me, and if I've looked into the situation on COMEX, who has only $1.5 billion of silver to deliver at any given time, but yet they leverage that over 100 times on paper contracts. If I've got $20 billion and I wanted to, let's say, do this to the gold market, I wouldn't be able to. It would take more money than my whole firm has. But to do it with silver, we're talking about $1.5 billion to $2 billion. And with all the funds out there that control these large amounts of money, that is not a lot at all. And so, yes, it's very possible. And I would have to say, if I ran a hedge fund, it seems to me that that's something that I would want to do. I mean, it's not illegal, and I think it's going to prove. Go ahead.
A lot of people are. I mean, even more than any time in the last, very tumultuous 2 years. I think a lot of these big players are trying to figure out where to go to get away from the dollar. It's painfully obvious that Bernanke, the Treasury, our government, is not going to stop printing money and not going to stop spending this nation into oblivion. We're going to have another record deficit this year. And in fact, speaking of deja vu, speaking of a repeat of the 2008 collapse, I mean, here we are. One of the things you covered in your report, I believe, was the fact that the debt ceiling. I don't think you did cover this in your report. Actually,
Yes, I did. Yep.
Oh, you did. Okay, good.
Yep.
I didn't want to misquote you.
Sure.
But here we're coming up on you did. That's right. The debt ceiling is only days away at this point. In 2009, our president said it was a lack of leadership and a dysfunctional government that caused this ceiling to be raised time and time again. And now we have the Treasury Secretary out there saying, it's all going to hit the fan if Congress doesn't step up and raise this debt ceiling once again. I think some of these big players that you're perhaps rubbing elbows with from time to time, they realize that paper money is very, very easy to print, and it's very, very easy to have a repeat of history where we have this fiat currency implode in our very face. So are these guys seeing the handwriting on the wall and getting ready to dump their dollar?
I think so. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look around and say, there's not a real safe place at this time. And if you're looking towards metal, you want to find the one, obviously, that looks like it's going to offer the biggest return. And if you control large amounts of money, you want to know the metal that you can become the major shareholder of, if you will. And it becomes very easy to do that with silver. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't recommend buying gold. I just believe that just to watch very closely, and I think both metals will go parabolic if either one were, COMEX were to default on either one. But it's very interesting, and it's something to watch. And, I myself have been doing this for over 10 years. I hear this information on a daily basis, never from sources this big. And I've almost become immune to it because of that. But when you hear things like this, it just gives you, some confirmation to what it is that you've been doing for the last decade and the investment strategy that I myself have employed over the last 7 to 10 years myself. So, and it makes me take a look at my situation and want to add more. Unfortunately, with the situation in silver that we're seeing, wholesalers are completely sold out of silver. Every silver item that I've got is going to require about a 3 to a 4 week wait at this point. But I would not overlook gold. Silver made a big gain compared to gold last year. But if you look back over the history since this bull market started, the averages have been about the same per year. And that tells me that gold has some catching up to do this year as well.
Yeah. And we're going to talk, we'll do our break here in a second, but I'm going to talk about, what you have on the ground that you can sell, and then get it more into, locking in prices and things like that. If you're listening in the chat room and you are too shy to call in, you can start posting your questions in there now. I'll try to write down as many as I can before the break expires. Or if you want to call in, we'll take questions on the backside of this break. 877-342-6673. 877-342-6673. We'll take questions in about 5 minutes. Gabe Elton, stay where you're at. We'll be right back. We'll take our one and only break, and we'll have more Wide Awake Radio right after this.
Stay away. Don't you invade my home. That's out if you hang outside. Don't come in. I'll only run and hide. Who can it be now?
All right. Welcome back. I cut the music off early even because our time is valuable. We get them once a month, and if we're lucky, once a month. 100 people in the chat room. If you'd like to join in, go to wideawakenews.com, click on Wide Awake Radio, and you can join in the chat. I've written down some of your questions, as many as I could during the break, and I know we already have one caller on. But I'm going to ask this question of you first, Gabe, because I thought it was a really good question. Never thought of this. Do you have a YouTube channel? And if you don't, why not? You should.
Yeah, great question, and you're exactly right. I myself have always been extremely private, although I've been in what you might call the activist community for some time. I do things in a different way, passing out videos and things to people that I meet, but I don't do a lot of online blogging or YouTubing. I don't even have a Facebook page, which is interesting, but it's mainly because I just prefer to have my privacy. But I do agree it is a great marketing idea, and it's something that I probably should do. I just haven't.
Well, we'll talk about that offline. I'm certainly happy to help you guys out with that if that's the direction you want to go. I mean, if nothing else, it's just one more source for the alternative media to have some valid information out there by people who know, people who are in the trenches with the actual physical metal to cut through the lies of the mainstream business media. So
you're exactly right. And I saw, just to cut you off, I saw the Extra Normal, the Bears, how great of a deal that was, and that was ingenious. I mean, it's such great information, and that was a coin company. It didn't cost them a dime really to put that together, and they got hundreds of thousands of views. Right.
Well, YouTube led to what I'm doing right now. YouTube led to you talking to me right now. I mean, so
yeah, that's true.
There's millions and millions of people who are out there on YouTube, and believe it or not all of them are looking for the talking orange or Charlie bit my finger. There's a lot of people searching for truth out there. So,
exactly.
Let's go to our caller now. We got A Garden from the chat room, and I have your guys' questions written down. But if you call in, you're going to get right through. So if you have questions, you just have to have answered. 877-342-6673. A Garden, are you there?
Yeah, I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound loud and clear. Thanks for the call.
Okay, great. Yeah, you mentioned the YouTube channel. That's actually, Charlie, that's how I found you and your radio show, was your YouTube channel.
Well, that's why I thought it was a great question, whoever posted that in the chat room. And yeah, I mean, it's certainly, like I said, not everybody on there is searching for fluff. Some people are looking for truth because they just can't find it. They can't find it in the mainstream. They find GoDaddy GoDaddy.com commercials and stuff to numb their mind. But it's a great opportunity. I think Gabe would be really wise in looking at that. So, did you have another question?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, well, I mean, there's been a lot of rumor and speculation and hearsay that the March delivery month coming up is going to be very interesting for the COMEX. Like a lot of private funds are going to make a run on the COMEX, try to get them to default. And I wanted to know what Gabe's opinion on that was. Also, his opinion on, say, generic silver rounds as opposed to silver eagles or Canadian maples, et cetera, et cetera.
Great question. Gabe, did you hear him?
Yeah, I would definitely concur with your analysis of this March delivery. I think the backwardation, especially in silver, is supporting that as well. And regarding your question about silver rounds, personally, at this time, I would recommend getting your hands on whatever silver that you can, including generic silver rounds. Silver rounds you can buy closer to the spot price than you would a maple leaf or an American eagle. Whenever you sell, generally you're going to get paid a little more for an American eagle or a maple leaf than you will a silver round. So your percentage gained is going to be the same. But at this point, I would recommend getting your hands on whatever silver you can, regardless of the type.
Okay, great. Thanks for answering my questions, fellas, and enjoying the show.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the call. Gabe, I want to ask you, Eastwatch is on, and I'm going to go to him in just a second, but I want to ask you, what would be the motivation, I thought about this, what would be the motivation for applying pressure on the COMEX? Is it strictly because you hold a massive position and if it comes from together, falls apart, your actual holdings of physical is going to be go parabolic?
I would say that is one of the motivating factors. I would like to believe that there are people out there that still have some integrity and have analyzed what's going on in the COMEX market, and it's just plain wrong. They're promising out 100 times more than the gold and silver that they actually have there. It's fractional reserve banking, but just with gold and silver, and it's wrong. You shouldn't be able no one firm should be able to own 80% of all the paper, of all the silver that's ever been produced in the world. And they only own it on paper, of course. And hopefully, I believe that there might be some people with some good hearts that are looking at this and saying, hey, this just doesn't add up. And when people see an imbalance like that, if you're able to take advantage of it on a large scale with very little exposure whenever you compare it to your overall assets, it's almost a no-brainer.
Hey, you know what? I just read a question flash by me in the chat room. Great answer, by the way, Gabe. And East, we're going to go to you right here in a second. Gabe, tell us real quick, what is COMEX? Maybe there's people listening that don't even know what the COMEX is.
COMEX is the Chicago Open Market Exchange. It's where commodities like gold, silver, copper, wheat, rice, pork bellies, all commodities, frozen orange juice, I believe, is still traded there. But it's a commodities exchange, and basically what they do is they leverage out on futures contracts that are paper, where they actually only have $1.5 billion of actual silver there for delivery at any time. And what they promised out on paper is 100 times that. And it's the same issue with gold. It's both gold and silver. And, whenever you have an investor can say, all right, I'll buy gold into the future or silver into the future, when that option expires, they can say, well, I don't want to take my profits or here's my losses, but I want the silver. I want the gold. I want to just take delivery. And once that happens, if you get enough people doing that, COMEX doesn't have any more silver to deliver. And
I'm always curious on I'm always curious on what prevents that from. I mean, is it that we're so far fringe that things like the Bust the Bank Buy an Ounce of Silver campaign by Max Kaiser. I mean, you would think that more and more big time players would start to think, you know what, I'm going to get some of the physical stuff here because maybe this is all true. Exactly.
That's exactly right. And in fact, from some of the same or the same source that we're hearing this from, he basically told us a few months ago that physical would go right to the moon should this happen. And he knows to get physical. And
right.
We're talking about someone that deals in a paper world. He knows to get physical.
Just like Olivia Newton-John.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. That's exactly right.
All right, East watches.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I wanted to say one thing that we didn't cover, and this is just a short little snippet. 1099 reporting laws, the $600 threshold that we're going to have to start supposedly in 2012 as part of Obamacare, that was repealed in the Senate recently. And it only has to go back to the House, which everyone is agreeing that it should just be a formality for the House to sign off on it. That entire provision within the Health Care Act was repealed in Senate. We expect that it will be repealed in the House as well.
Yeah, some of this stuff that they passed that is just blatantly obvious that it's not going to stand the test. I was thinking about that when I heard that, Gabe, and I thought, why? Why do they do this? Besides a talking point when they go out and run for re-election, but it's also a way when they write this legislation, when they know that it's going to be a simple matter of contesting it in court, but it's a way for them to actually cook the books ahead of time in order so that they can get what they wanted passed in this legislation. Because I was thinking about this, if you're sitting there trying to pass legislation and you're trying to pay for it, and so what you're writing down all this stuff that is going to just, a mandatory purchase of health care insurance, that's going to save us this many billions of dollars. A mandatory tax or a mandatory 1099 on $600 purchases, well, that's going to generate this much revenue. But they know in their heads they just can't do this, and if we still have any resemblance of a republic left, these pieces are going to be stripped off, or the whole legislation is going to be thrown away. So I think in a lot of cases they use these tactics in order to cook the books to make it look like it's something that they should vote for because there's something in there that they really do want, knowing that this is going to get thrown by the wayside. Eastwatch, I want to bring you on because you've been holding for a little while. So are you there, East?
Yeah, no problem. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, cool. I've been having some technical difficulties here, so I wasn't sure on that. And when I first called in, I got some feedback, so you guys actually might have answered my question already. But it's just a simple, quick question. He brought up the March option expiration. And my question is, don't we have option expirations every month, and when the next one be later in February? So why focus on March?
Gabe, did you hear that?
Great. Yeah, definitely, and good question. That I don't have an answer to. I would say that the reason is because we were told over the next several months that, here's the exact words, over the next several months you'll know what I'm talking about. And putting two and two together and reading some reports that I've seen online, like I said, even Seeking Alpha covered it today, it looks like that March date is the one, and it seems to fit in with some of the information that we're hearing as well. So, again, no one has come out and said that X is going to happen by X days, but what we have heard is that within a certain number of days, you'll know what I'm talking about. And just looking at all the context clues, we're willing to go on record to say by the end of this year, there is a very high percentage that COMEX will default. I'm pointing to that March expiration date just to give you a little more information based on some of the things that I've been seeing as well.
Okay, cool. That was it.
All right. Yeah, thanks, totally. East.
Thanks.
All right. Any more questions?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, I think we lost him. And East, I heard I felt your technical difficulties there. It started to feed back in my headset as well. So, but thank you for the question, outstanding question. I'm going to ask you one now from the chat room, Gabe. And I'm sorry if I ask your question. I didn't get it was scrolling so fast I couldn't write down all the names. But somebody wants to know your opinion of some gold stock. And I'm not sure if these are all gold or silver. MFN, GG, AEM, SSRI, NG, NGV. Some of these I don't even know what they are. I'm assuming they're either these aren't ETFs, these are actual companies, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. And first of all, I want to make it very clear, I can't give any stock advice, but and nor would you want to take stock advice from me. I personally believe in what I say and do what I preach, and that is physical gold and silver. Doesn't mean that that's the only thing that I own. I happen to have a lot of other hobbies and things that I collect as well. I have storable food, but I will say that my problem with gold stocks is that if you look, the saying is they should outperform gold. If you look back over the last 10 years, with the large majority of all gold stocks, that has not been the case. And what you run into when you own a stock is you have what's called counterparty risk. You might own a company that looks great on paper, and they might not be doing anything wrong, but perhaps one of their suppliers or one of their customers has a major problem that totally throws their stock price off. So I personally don't like counterparty risk. I personally don't like to have paper assets, and that's really what stocks are. Now, with that being said, I've been in the chat room watching as well, and someone either asked about or recommended Nova Gold, and I can say that about 2 years ago, Nova Gold was recommended to us by another different, very influential hedge fund guy that was speaking at a small conference, and basically that stock has tripled, if not quadrupled, since his recommendation. So that's not to say that great money can't be made on gold stocks. It's not to say that there's time to trade those and make profits. But personally, in an environment like this, I'm not wealthy enough to have counterparty risk and more paper assets. I personally prefer to have it right here in front of me, something I can touch, feel, and spend if I need to.
Husker Dan just put in there, get food, then ammo, then silver, screw paper. I kind of agree with Husker Dan. Look, here's the thing. I'm seeing cash is king, and my stock did this, my stock did that over the last several years. I made a bunch of money in 2009. Okay, I mean, there's no doubting that we went from 6,600 on the 30 stocks that make up the Dow Jones to 12,000 plus, and who knows, we might be at 20,000 by the end of this year. The point of the matter is the fundamentals that drive this economy are completely, 100%, in my opinion, manipulated and controlled because of the actions of the Federal Reserve and a few key financial players. This game cannot last forever. We've seen the warning siren in 2008, and I think when history looks back on this, if there is a future of mankind to look back on this time in history, they're going to see 2008 akin to the 29 collapse, followed by a couple years of false prosperity, claims of a recovery, and then the real pain, the real boom is going to be lowered. And anybody who's sitting in paper, and if you think that's the way to go, then more power to you. I mean, and as long as the world is trading Federal Reserve notes and keeping it as their primary reserve currency, you're in business. You're going to be proven right. The problem is, if you can look around the world and see the trajectory that we're on is leading to a system that is going to involve the Federal Reserve note as the main reserve currency, then you are not looking at the same reality I'm looking at. I'm not questioning the fact that the Dow is up. It is. I'm questioning why it's up. I'm questioning the condition of this economy, the condition of my neighbors, not the condition of the fat cats on Wall Street. They're doing just fine. But when the music stops, if you're sitting there holding paper, you need to ask yourself the question, is this stock, is this silver certificate, this stock you have, or any other kind of paper wealth going to be honored? We've seen throughout history, time and time again, that the answer to that question is no. We're not different human beings than we were 30 years ago, 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago. Fiat currencies come and go. Governments run the countries that have these fiat currencies into the ground because they can with a fiat currency, and then you have a moment of clarity, if you will, and the situation is rectified. The person sitting there holding paper, he is the loser. Everybody will take a haircut eventually. If you're sitting with physical, and I mean physical anything, physical food in your shelves, physical way to defend yourself, be it ammo, weapons, whatever, physical gold and silver, you have something that nobody can come in and say, guess what, it's worth half of what it was, or a quarter of what it was, or it's 95% devalued from what it was yesterday. That is why we bring Gabe on. That is why we talk gold and silver. It isn't because we're arguing that one is better than the other. There is no argument there. Gold and silver, 5,000-year history. United States current Federal Reserve note, 40-year history. Fiat currencies throughout time and history have a 40-year shelf life, and then they implode. Why would this be different? Gabe?
You're exactly right, and I want to reiterate, Nova Gold has almost quadrupled over the last 2 or 3 years. It's definitely not a bad idea to own stocks. I just personally don't do it. There are people that I work with that own gold stocks. But I happen to back up what Charlie just said. At the end of the day, if this is what you really believe that we're on the course of, and I think all the evidence that I've researched kind of points to that. It points to, at the end of the day, are those paper promises going to be honored? Now, do I think that's going to happen next week or by March or by the end of the year? Probably not. But I personally don't want to take that chance, and I would rather have physical. Now, on the other hand, Charlie, if I had $100,000 in silver and $400,000 or $500,000 in gold, I would go out and buy some gold stocks. But I'm not there yet. I hope that one day I may be, but I'm not there yet. And when I get to that point, I'll probably place with some money on those exchanges. But who knows if those exchanges will be around if I ever even get to that point with gold and silver.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I want to just analyze what you said there. You're putting your wealth into something you know is going to maintain value, and if you have extra, then you're going to play the stock game. I mean, truly, if you and I were about to take a trip to Vegas together, we'd be saying the same thing. This is money we're going to bring that we can afford to lose. Maybe we'll turn it into double or triple or quadruple. Maybe we'll break the house. Chances are we won't. That's why 90% of the people who invest in the stock market on their own lose money. But I think your scenario is a smart one. If you have wealth, protect it. If you have extra and you want to try to gamble, then go ahead and do your gambling. All right, we have about 3 minutes left, so I want to ask one question because it keeps coming up in the chat room. Will silver be extinct by the end of this decade? You probably saw that in there. I'm assuming they mean the silver that's used in industry is consumed and therefore gone because it's not worth to it goes into the landfill.
Yes. I've seen some reports on that, and there are some interesting figures that point to that. One of the main reasons, like you pointed out, silver a lot of times isn't recycled. Most of the gold that's ever been mined is still in a bank vault or someone's safe, whereas silver is used industrially. It gets used up. Very little of it is recycled, and at this point, if you took above-ground inventory, silver is more rare than gold. Overall, still in the earth, that isn't the case. But above ground, ready to be used, that is the case. And there aren't a lot of pure silver mines in the world. And in fact, there may be 3 or 4, possibly 10 mines that strictly mine silver. Most of the time, silver is a byproduct. They may be searching for copper or something else and run across a silver vein, and they would extract silver. But if you look, silver mining has been declining drastically over the last 50 to 100 years, and while industrial demand continues to explode. So it's quite a situation. It's sort of like the situation that you see with COMEX, and I think that is a reflection of the rarity of silver, is that the Chicago Open Market Exchange has less than $1.5 billion worth of silver there. I mean,
right.
in today's day,
Gabe, I don't want to cut you.
Yeah,
I don't want to cut you off, but we're about a minute. So, what did you bring to the show tonight? Do you have any special? I guess
I don't want to market something that's going to take a 3-week delivery. Although I would recommend that you all get in touch with us and order some silver. It's unfortunately you would just have to get in line. There are some delays. I happen to have some British sovereign gold coins available at a really good price. It's $20 less than our online price. If they call, mention your show, we'll offer those at $3.74 per coin. They're online at $3.94, and they are available for immediate delivery. I would urge you to contact us and get in your orders for silver. Just want to let you know beforehand, because of the severe supply shortages, there's not going to be any major discounts, and there will be some delays, approximately 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay, so we got British sovereigns, $3.79 or $3.74 is Wide Awake Radio price. $3.94 is what you have it on the website. I've dumped in your phone number and website several times, but give it on the air one more time. Go ahead.
That'll be 1-800-928-6468. www.austincoins.com. austincoins.com.
Yeah, and you can also you can go to the website, the front of this website. Matter of fact, I think we have one of your banners right around the chat room here. If we don't, we should. But you can go to the front page, wideawakenews.com, and click on the website. Gabe, thank you very much. As always, you're full of information, and it's not enough time. You know, at some point, I'd like to be able to get you on more than once a month, and hopefully your schedule and my schedule allows that to happen here coming up in the next few months. Gabe Elton, Austin Rare Coin, author of the Austin Report. You can go to wideawakenews.com and click on his banner. You can also call him tomorrow about the 374 Sovereign deal. Gabe, I appreciate it. I'll see you next month, if not sooner. Everybody stay tuned. Jeff Rintz is coming up next. We'll be back tomorrow. I think we might do a modified, open topic Wednesday this go around. I have no one on the books for tomorrow, so let's have some fun. I'll see everybody tomorrow night at the same time. Jeff Rintz is coming up next.
Rich wage war, it's the poor who die. Meanwhile, the leader just talks away, stuttering and mumbling for nightly news never played. The rest of the world watching at the end of the day, both scared and angry, like, what did he say?